Hello folks, I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about tomorrow. I do the show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of a cooling Rocky Mountains. So today we had the market do what the market does, and that is refuse to go down. It was another day in paradise for the bulls. They had it, and when I say refuse to go down, it's not like it didn't go down. It did, but it didn't go down much. You actually had the index slightly up. Everything else was slightly down. The Russell was the biggest loser. Let's look at the numbers real quick. 58, almost 59. 58 and a half lower on the Dow, 15,133. S&Ps dropped a point, 1693, almost was 1694. Composite almost 3 points lower, 38.15. NDX was flat, 32.53 and a quarter, and the Russell was the biggest loser, almost 5 down, 10.82.55. So some weakness, but it was gap down again today, same as yesterday. Push it right back up. Just won't let it stay down. It's not as if volume is picking up, because if we go and we look at the volumes here, you can see that you're not getting huge volume expansion in any way. So what that tells me is that when you come down here, you're not finding new sellers. The sellers step away. And if the sellers are stepping away, that's telling you they're unwilling to sell at lower prices. If they're unwilling to sell at lower prices, it doesn't have to take much volume to move them back the other way. And you get these flip arounds like you got today with a hammer reversal on the S&P 500. Now the S&P, it was actually going back into the same area that it tested yesterday that we talked about. Got back in there, same sort of volume, not enough volume. Can't break it down. What are they going to do? Flip it around, take it back up. If you look over on the weekly, remember on the weekly, this thing was doing a retest regen off this high. That low is 1681. We got down to underneath it, 1674. We closed into it again. So you can see that this thing is holding up there. And actually today, even though it was negative, it was actually a positive day for the bulls. If I look at the Dow Jones, which continues to be the weakest, it undercut that low from Monday, back over it. A little hammer reversal on this one as well. Less volume. This thing wants to flip around and try to go back the other way. If I go to the broad composite. Now these are doing retest regens immediately off the break of the swing point high on Tuesday. And so that swing point high, the low on it, 37.74. We got down to 37.88. So, excuse me, the high was 37.98, the low 37.74. So we go back into it, flip around to close over it again, volume about the same, a little bit less than the breakout bar, a lot less than the bar it was coming back into. That's bullish. NDX, same story. Did exactly the same thing. Gets a breakout yesterday, suspect, come back, do the retest regen, doesn't have the volume. Less volume than yesterday and a lot less volume the swing point high. That also is bullish. If I look at the Russell, now the Russell didn't have a break because it didn't have a swing point high, but it did push over the congestion area that it had been in here. Pushes over it yesterday, doesn't get to the top, comes back into the support zone that printed overnight, holds, flips back around. They all are trying to go higher. And that's despite all the issues that you keep hearing, one after another. I mean, yes, the issues are real. Yes, they're problems. But the market still doesn't want to give it up. And if the market won't give it up, folks, and won't go down, you just got to go with it. And that's what we've tried to do for a couple of years now, with this market unwilling to trade down. It's at particular points that we take our shots at it, hedge ourselves, and sometimes actually take shots at it like we did in June. But when it's trying to go higher, you just have to go with it. That's just the way it is. Let's go to the sectors real quick here. So let's see if there's anything shaking. Not really. IYT comes back into that support, that swing point high. Doesn't have the volume. Flips around, does a hammer. That looks like it wants to try to work higher still. If we go to the semiconductors, which have been on a tear and then holding, and that one's still holding. A little undercut, less volume. Yeah, so that still wants to work higher. XLB. Now the XLB and some of the others actually had ABCDs that were bearish. Today this one gets back over that area. The big test, as we were talking about last night, is going to be how do they react when they come into the big bars on the way up. Many of those are the anchors. You can see this anchor resistance. That will be the tell if these things can get up into those resistance zones and beyond them. So far they have an XLE, tried to get back up into the area today. It's back into to the resistance zone. It's got a little bit farther to go to hit the big bars. It's not very much farther, so I would think that one tries tomorrow. So they're doing this little climb back up there. Now, when they're doing this, they're not giving you a signal yet that they're going to actually do something positive. What they are telling you is that they don't want to go down. That doesn't mean they will go up, but it definitely means that it's a serious struggle to go lower. And we've seen that over and over. I mean, this market really always seems to find buyers every time it goes lower. And that's no different this time. So far they haven't got the big push. And if you just step back and you think about it, you know, you got earnings coming out next week, starting earnings season. So most of the warnings that are out there are already out there. They always make the bar low enough to jump over. So anybody that was going to warn, or the majority of those that were going to warn, have already done so. And they've brought the bar down so they can step over it again. So the earnings should again print well as a result of that, and they were cutting earnings into the season again. So it won't surprise me if in fact earnings end up being a positive for the market. The fact that we've not been able to go up on the S&P and on the Dow as we approach earnings, right, gives them the leeway to actually make a run. The fact that we've gone kind of sideways on the NDX and the IWM and so forth also gives them the opportunity to break out, right, and move ahead. So the earnings catalyst is there. What's needed for the market to move higher is for there to be some sort of a deal coming out of Washington on the fiscal stuff. And you can imagine that if something comes out and the news starts to break that that's what's going to happen, you're going to see this market try to run. That will be the point where one will be able to tell. You can kind of surmise that the way they're set up is they're going to run if in fact that comes out. So realize if you're trying to play the short side here, it only takes, you know, a drop on the news event to run things against you, because as you can see in these markets, they're not willing to give it up. Here's the financials. Financials almost went positive today, closed slightly down. Again, nothing special here, just consolidating. They actually didn't look bad today the way they behaved. The XLI coming back into a retest regen area, almost into it, holding support in here. This has been one of the strongest sectors. This is definitely one to keep an eye on. Looks like it wants to go higher. You got a little hammer reversal today. XLK, just like the Qs and so forth, never wanted to give anything up. They still want to try to trade back up into that zone. And the bars that they're coming back into are the bars to watch, and that's going to be true on, like, you know, 6 out of 9 of these things. This is another one. XLP, hammer reversal here on lighter volume. That's also a positive. So when I look across all these, the sectors are lining up to try to run. XLU, you can't tell anything. That one's so sick it can't get going. XLV inside day, less volume, that's okay. And the last one, XLY, let's see what it looks like. That's also positive. Lighter volume, test into the support zone again. Folks, the sectors look good. The indexes look like they want to run. The sectors look good. So it's hard to be bearish. It's hard to be thinking bearish thoughts here. Let me go to the Ox markets. I didn't get a chance to look at these last night. Let's see what they look like. Okay, let's start with the currencies, because the dollar got hit again today. So the FXE, nothing but dark candles. So it's interesting because they keep pushing higher, but the sellers are winning almost every day. You know, intraday, right? You start higher, you close lower. You start, you know what I mean? That's what these candles are showing you. You did get over the swing point high today, though. So that's going to be another trend change tomorrow. It's going to be suspect. So a retest regen fairly fast would make sense. The yen was trying to push higher too, and trying to get up into this big bar. So there was a spike up. You know, that was the Fed day, if I remember right. It was a huge spike. You know, big wide range. Usually those ranges end up defining but many bars to come, right? And in this case, we're on the daily. So I would expect that it's going to have a hard time getting over the top. That high is 185. We're at 1041. So a test there. It's probably an opportunity to short if you want to short the yen. But that would be about as far as I think this thing can get, and then we'll see how it trades back the other way. Now the dollar itself was down almost 0.5% this morning, closed down about 0.25% at new lows. It's testing new lows on the weekly and on the monthly. So this is kind of crunch time for the dollar. Dollar's going to have to get a reversal here pretty quickly and get back into these bars. Otherwise, you're going to see some breaks and potentially a fast move. Now, if you do get a fast move in the dollar, that's going to be bad for the equities. And I say that only from the sense that fast moves in currencies typically end up being bad for the equities. And this definitely would be a fast move. It starts moving. Let's look at the commodity sector. I don't look at this much. Just going sideways. Remember I brought this up about a week or so ago. I like the way it's setting up down here on the weekly. Now, when you have such a long run down, you have to expect a deep retrace. I would not be surprised to see it test that bar. That's 816 on the bottom. Let's go back to the daily over here. 816 is this bar. That's where you want to see it test to. And look at all those lows that have lined up now. If that breaks, you can almost guarantee it's going to get under this thing. You can actually get a cheaper price. So might be one to watch, because if you get down on a fast move, 1 or 2 bars, and then it reverses, it'd be the time to try to catch this thing if you want to try to play it on alongside. Let's move over and look at the commodities in terms of the metals, the silver and the gold. So yesterday you had big drops. Today they reverse it. Less volume. It goes back into this bar, 2105, and closes underneath it. That's a failure on the way back up. How about gold? So gold yesterday dropped about 40, 35, 40. Today it was up about 30. So it goes back into the bar. And the bar it's coming back into is this one, 127.98. Didn't quite get to it. Less volume. Yeah, that is not encouraging, actually. So if you were buying the metals on this flip around, I'd be careful with what I'm doing there. That doesn't look encouraging. It looks like it's going to backtrace here. How about copper? So copper is yeah, it's just range trading, nothing there. Let's go look at the bonds. Start with junk bonds. A little bounce, nothing special. Remember, we had the nice big move up. You fade all the way back in. Now you're finding some support. Nothing special though. How about the TLT itself? TLT looked like it was failing today, and it did fail. So the TLT, remember the TLT had a nice run up, right? Gets up over the swing point high. That's what you want. Now it's fading back under, so it's doing an immediate retest regen off of that swing point high. Bottom was 105.74. Yesterday you closed just over it. Today you try to get up as a result, but you come right back down and close. This thing's it's not gonna be able to regenerate. It's gonna trade lower. I would think it's gonna try to trade back into this bar at a minimum. And if it gets into the bar deep enough, I would think you'll get a deep retrace again, way back down in here somewhere. So I would, right now is not the time to be in them, short or long, probably, because it can still go either way on you. So there's nothing there yet. But I like the way this one's turning. It's putting a nice range down here. My expectation is the range is going to range from up here to down in this area for a while, and then eventually start breaking down and interest rates going up again. But it's going to take a while for all that to play out. Let's go look at the oil and the natural gas. Natural gas still can't do anything. Nothing there. How about oil? Oil, what do we got here? Oh, nice big pop today. So you get down to support, right? You test in there 2 days right here at the bottom in the support zone, and then it flips around and comes back up with some nice volume expansion. So I would think you'll close that gap probably tomorrow and work back into this big bar, trying to get back up towards these swing point high areas up in here. Okay, so what else we got? Those are the main things. Let's see what kind of questions we got out here. So good evening. Hello Feedy. So we got an AON. Let's see what AON looks like. Let me get it stuck into my system here. Alright, AON. And so this is okay. I'm gonna pull it all the way over and look at the monthly to start with. It would be best if y'all tell me what you're doing, what time frame you're interested in. Long, short, time frame. That would give me a better idea of how to try to read it. So you had a nice long straight run up on the monthly, and nice breakout here on the weekly. And you're fading back in on that breakout bar, and you actually had some volume come out of this thing yesterday. You reverse back, lower volume back over today. Okay, so that's all good. Let me quickly though, I don't know enough about this company. Let me see what they do. AON. So financials, insurance brokers. Okay. Now another thing you need to start worrying about is not worrying, but making sure you factor in is earnings, right? Because earnings are coming. So this one's 1028. This is nothing special here in terms of revenue and earnings growth. I'm not sure why the company's doing so well, but it is. Let's go back to the chart now. So you're fading. The way this looks to me is the way it's set up here is you had a nice long strong trend up, right? You get a big bump up. You come off some volume though. Now you're an under over. That's probably going to lead to a bounce. That bounce can take you back to the top of this bar, to the top of that bar. That's where your zones are. So when I look at it from that perspective, that tells me, and you got three of them stacked up here together. When I look at it from that perspective, I don't think it's going to go that far. And your risk is all the way back to here, so I don't see a trade in it. This is just something you have to put on your list and wait and see if it will come back deeper. and then that's, come back down into here, not much volume. That's where you probably want to pick it up. EEM, will it ever catch a break? In the sense of what? Come back or go up? Because the EEM has actually performed pretty well. So I'm not sure what the meaning of that is. I mean, if I pull this over and look at it, long term, it's consolidating. That's on the monthly, right? Big consolidation range at the top. If I look at it here, not at the top, but a big consolidation range. If I look at it on the weekly, we had a big sell-off. A lot of that was China. You just caught an ABCD up. Now you pull back, and you pull almost back into support, right? Lighter volume. All that stuff looks good. That's exactly what you want, to build up strength to go the other way again. So when I look over here, and I see this big spike up, and you came back down, and you tested into it, you actually got under it, came into the secondary support, right? And that's where it found support. Got a little bounce, not much volume yet. This thing's just building to go again. I like the way it looks. There's nothing wrong with it. You buy the retraces, and I know that's hard to do, but you have to buy the retraces. And both of those retraces, if you bought here, if you bought there, you're winning on them already. And you could push them out as it comes back into this bar 42 area, and then try to retrace and grab some more. So that's the way I see this one. I think it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I like the way it's trading. If you're going long, you try to go long on these retraces into support zones. These anchored support zones, they mean, the intention is to locate where anchors are, right? What are anchors? Wide price spread, this is one. High volume, that's also a high volume wide price spread. It also is a swing point. That makes it like triple effective. So it makes it very hard, to get under or over this thing and stay there. And you can see it gets under it and comes right back. And there was a secondary one here. So as you're coming back in here, this is where you want to be buying, right? And so where's the buy point? If you get a retrace into here tomorrow, that's a buy point, into the support zone. Next question, what do we got here? What does a black candle show? Well, dark candles, whether they're red or black, right, they show that price opened at the high and closed lower than where it opened, right? So that's the difference. The difference between black and red has to do with what the prior day was. So in this example, the prior day, it closed lower than the prior day. In this case, it closed higher than the prior day. If it's lower, it gets red. If it's higher than the prior day, it gets black. And so that's what your black candles are. Okay, so that's it for the questions. Let's take a second, because I haven't had a chance to look at them in a while. Let's take a second and look at the world markets and see what they're doing. Because I didn't do my show this weekend. I was out. I don't know what these look like. And so let's see if we can see anything here. So we'll start in Europe. Consolidating at the highs, doing a retest regen, and it's trying to regen. That's positive. FTSE. Okay, FTSE's in deep doo-doo, huh? So this one can't catch a break. Now this one looks ugly. I wonder why. I don't know what the weighting structure is in here. I know miners are a big part of this index. It probably has a lot to do with it. Of the Europeans, these have a lot more weighting in the commodities and mining in particular. Well, it's actually testing down here, and it's testing okay, so on a weekly it's probably going to hold this time, but I don't like this chart. It's not where I'd be putting my money if I was going to Europe. Let's look at the DAX, see what it looks like. The same sort of thing. It's retesting back into this breakout bar here, which the swing point is over off out outside of here. You can't see it. It does a retest, regen, and it's trying to regen higher. So those all look fine. Let's go to Europe. Excuse me, Asia, and see what's happening. We'll start with Taipei. This is chip country. So it gets up, tests the highs, doesn't have the volume, retraces 81.81, and it's holding there. This is going to go back and test the highs again. The Korean Kospi, let's see what it's doing. I haven't seen it in a while. Just holding at the highs. That's nice. That's consolidation. And if you pull it over and you look at the weekly, you can see why it's consolidating, trying to get enough strength to get over all that stuff, right? There's a lot of resistance up there. So it takes a while to build up and get over it. If I go to the Japanese market, the Topix, Topix, I think it's Topix is how it's pronounced. Okay, so they got hit yesterday pretty good. Got a bad bar here. I don't know what that is. We'll have to fix that. I think they were actually closed that day. Alright, so you came down with volume. So the swing point high is here. It's back under that one. Didn't get to the top. Okay, so this one's going to trade lower again tonight, it looks like. And so, if you remember, you had a big spike down, right? Big spike at the top. Remember, left volume up there. It's going to go back up there before it's over with, folks. Then you get a spike up, right? You're rolling higher. You're getting higher lows if you're looking at it from that perspective. You know, from my perspective is you're going into anchored resistance and you're failing. That requires you to come back and build some more strength and try to go back the other way. So this one's going to try to trade a little bit lower, and then you'll finally get a bump back up and you'll try to get over the top again. If I look at, where's the Hong Kong market? Here it is. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, it was closed this day, I believe. I believe it was closed last night. Got to get rid of that quote. Yeah, this market still looks good. You know, it can retrace a bit more, but it still looks good. So almost all, other than the Japanese market, they look great to me. I think they look fine. Okay, let's see here. One more question. NTES. Let's see what that one looks like. You know, folks, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff. You have to pull it back and make sure you look at your earnings, and you have to look at the landscape, what's coming, right? What's on the agenda, what's coming, how does that fit in, how does the market react to it? Those are the kinds of tells that you have to, you have to build into your process, right? NetEase, this looks fine. It's just consolidating. Range trading at the top. If you pull it over and look at the weekly, you can see what it's doing. Nice big pop up, and now it's consolidating. And if you go over to your monthly, I mean, you've got a big move higher that just runs up to another one, consolidates, comes back, does it again. It's been doing it for years now. I like it. I like it, especially if it can come back into here. You got two swing point lows. If you can break them, you'll get a fast move into here, and you can pick it up cheap. So that's the way that one looks. The question is do I think it's going to come back in? It can, because you got these two swing point lows. Anytime you get two of them lined up like that, you can get a fast move on that time frame, 1 to 2 bars, maybe 3. If you break them here, you can get a quick move into here. If it holds, though, I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to break. If it does, you'll get a quick move into the support, which is where you want to buy. But you got swing points lining up here too, right? So if you go the other way, it's up there too. This bar is going to be heck to break, though, right? And stay over it or stay under it. So into here is a buy. Up to there is probably a sell still. In terms of just if you're working around a position. So last thought here. Seems like the market does fear the Washington crisis, the debt ceiling. It's an unknown, right? Market always fears the unknown, and it's an unknown, and they have to either price it in or ignore it. Usually they don't ignore it. They get a little wobbly in front of it until they price it in enough. we haven't really priced in much. Part of that is because the economic news continues to be okay, and you got earnings coming up, and they're probably going to beat. So that's why this market won't come down. Folks, I'm going to have to leave it there. I'm a little bit over. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, take care of yourself. Thanks, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great one. Until then, I'm L.A. Little. This is and was your daily TA Wrap. Have a great one. Good night.